So what I can do is I can go to our texture, select the bumblebee, add it to our spotlight. We're going to, number one, we're going to take this little guy standing in front of a window and we're going to drop that opacity down. We're going to scale it down just a little bit, position him here, and we'll use this to keep us honest. So now we can go into, let's start with, we'll keep it simple. I'm going to start with a Polymesh 3D, drag it on my canvas, go into edit mode. I'm going to go down here to initialize. We're going to do a Q sphere. Again, just really simple sphere here. I have my floor turned on so we can see where Z forward is. So if we turn on X symmetry, this is across the X axis. So if I subdivide this up a little bit, you can see, you know, if I make this into a, let's do Shift Z to turn off spotlight here. If we have this as a little face, this is what I want to have facing forward here. So we'll just start there. And we'll do Z to turn spotlight back on. And also if I want to like snap back to this camera view, what I'm going to do is go over here to Movie, go to Timeline Show, and we'll just show this timeline so I can start adding adding a little bit in there. So we've got our head here. Let's go ahead and pull this down. Let's smooth this out. So this will be the first part. And you know what? We don't need, we'll go to subdivision level. You know what? We'll keep it at 3, but we'll delete lower. So I don't want subdivisions just yet. We're just using this to kind of block out our mesh. Hit W, hold down Control, drag that straight back. We'll go ahead and scale this up. And we can rotate it back using our gizmo. And we'll go ahead and shift smooth this. Like so. And then hit W, hold down Control, drag out another copy here. And I don't know the B parts necessarily. It's been a while since I've learned about B's in school. But let's say like thorax, abdomen, head. For these other parts here, you know what? I kind of like the sphere we're starting out with. We can just do like a BI brush insert, go to Insert Mesh Primitives, and grab any of these. Oh, there's a polysphere right in here. We'll just use that. Grab a polysphere, and we can just pull that out. So now we're on the leg here, and we can scale this out a bit. Let's turn on local symmetry, so we're scaling across that local axis here, and we can rotate this down, and whoops, back. And we'll smooth that back, and then again, we'll drag out a copy of this thing. We'll smooth this down, and that'll be his little leg here. And then these little leg pieces, we'll figure out. For this front leg, if we turn on polyframe here, you're going to see these legs right here are their own poly group. So I can just hit W, Control tap those, and then we can just Control drag out those as a copy. And you know what, before we do that, when it starts doing weird stuff like that, just do a quick geometry, modify topology, mirror, and weld, and that'll fix that right up. So now Control drag this out. And I am going to change my view in just a second because I'm sure this is turning into something ridiculous from my other views here. So let's go ahead and rotate this way. There we go. So we've got our leg here. Now to snap back to that view, I didn't save it. So what I need to do is reposition my body here. And if I'm fairly happy with this positioning, I can just click up here in my timeline, and then no matter what I do, I can hit the back arrow, and that just basically slides this timer or this little timeline to that first dot. So I can go, if I had multiple references up here in my spotlight, I could save a view here, save a view here, save a view here, and then I can just use my arrow keys to snap between the different views, or I can just go up here and I can just slide it in between. If I don't want them, I can just drag them off. So I can always snap back to that view, and now I can reposition this arm just a little bit here. So we'll go ahead and spin this up a little bit and smooth this down. And then let's go ahead and hold down Control. I'm going to go to Mask Lasso. I'm going to mask out this little bottom part here, invert that mask by Control tapping, and we'll scale this in a little bit and then out. Good enough. So we've got our B blocked out. And so now, as we can see on my reference, these things went a little bit wonky. So what I'm going to do is go into polygroups here, and we'll do a quick auto groups. And that's going to give us anything that's not vert welded. Where are we at? I don't know. I don't even know where it is in there. I'm just going to go to my custom menu here, auto groups, and then we'll do a quick mirror and weld. So now what I can do is I can hit W, I can control tap any of these polygroups here, and now we can go through here and make this look a little bit better. So obviously these things should be touching here. And now that I have polygroups here, I can also go to my Move brush, go in here to Auto Masking. And then you can see we have Mask by Polygroups. I can crank that up to 100. And now I can just go through here. You can also, instead of doing Mask by Polygroups, you can turn on Topological. And then anything that's not vert welded, and the first one you touch will be the only one that it kind of modifies. So either way, I'll go ahead and do Mask by Polygroups. We'll do Shift Z to bring my spotlight back. We'll go ahead and snap our camera back. And now we can just very quickly go through here and match all these bubbly little fat parts. And then we can go through here, we can make sure like, okay, these things need to be sticking. So you're constantly making adjustments in 3D and then snapping back and then checking your reference. And this goes for if you're matching a concept or anything else, you can always go back, and it's just a way to kind of keep yourself honest. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and start refining a little bit. He's mostly going to be covered in fur, so I'm not overly concerned about the particulars, but we can go ahead and clean them up just a tad. And it looks like we're making a very specific type of bee. They're kind of all over the place. As far as, you know, it looks like some of them have more segments than others. Some of them have a little bit chunkier segments. And another thing I can do, since this is a fairly simple model, what I'm going to do is go here to Subtool, and we have polygroups on both sides. So I'm just going to do a quick split, group split. And now every single one of these will be in its own subtool, so I can just alt-click through and select them like that. Let's do a quick save. And we can go into our quick save here. Hold on just a second, just in case. Quick save. We'll load that back up. There we go. Camtasia Recorder. And we will reposition that right here. Okay, turn that off. Cool. Let me catch up real quick. You think Houdini can compete with Maya Max in terms of modeling? Yeah, sure. Modeling, yeah, I mean, it can do faces, extrusions, bevels, booleans. I don't know what else kind of modeling I would do. You can put things along a path. I mean, you kind of have to put yourself in the mindset of the node-based system, but I'm sure there's ways to model around that. I don't do a lot of modeling in Houdini, but I should probably give it a shot. But really, for just modeling purposes, as long as your modeling package can do, let's like QMesh, you can do an extrusion, and you can do like a bevel, and I think that's usually, and a Boolean operation. So for example, if we go into like BI brush insert Boolean here, and we'll go ahead and grab this thing. So we can go ahead and pull this off. We'll go ahead and do a split unmask points. We'll drop this down, set that underneath, and it will turn on our Boolean render. So as long as you can do like Booleans and extrusions and bevels, I think that's all I ever use. So I don't know, your mileage may vary, but for me, most modeling programs nowadays are pretty compatible. Cool. Since people are talking about Blender sculpting, I want to ask your opinion on the program since the 2.8 update is around the corner. Blender's one of those programs where I've always wanted to use it, and I've never had a reason to use it because I've always either had a license for something that I was using in development, or I use ZBrush. So I don't really have an opinion, at least not an educated one. I think it's cool. I see a lot of people doing a lot of really cool stuff with it, but it's nothing that I've had to use. Not to say that you can't use it or you shouldn't use it. Like I said, I've seen Master Xeon, Jerry Perkins, if you want to look him up, he's got some really cool stuff on Blender hard ops. The hard ops guy. Let's go ahead and do a split mass points here. So again, like I said, it's one of those things where I wanted to check it out, never could really justify the time to do it given my schedule at the moment. But I mean, that could all change. Let's go ahead and rotate this around here. So we're going to go ahead and put in his upper arms, and then we'll put in his little spindly feet. For the spindly feet here, let's turn off our live boolean, go to out of edit mode, and we'll go back to, you know what, we'll keep it simple. We'll make a sphere 3D, drag it on our canvas, go into edit mode, make it a poly mesh, and we'll go ahead and scale it. And we'll go ahead and grab our snake hook, which disappeared when I had to move my, oh boy. Okay, BS, snake hook. And then it looks like on here, we can also use vector displacement for this if you wanted to, I suppose. But I'm just going to do a real quick kind of little feet grabber here. Looks something like this maybe. And it looks like these are, if we go into standard brush here, these are kind of segmented as well. So we can go ahead and start subdividing this up. And using our clay brush, let's go ahead and switch over. Startup material, please. So we can go ahead and segment these. And of course, it's not like this is anything beautiful. If I wanted to, I could spend the time to go through here and make this really sing. But what I'm going to do is, okay, this is my model here. If I want to simplify this, I could decimate this down, or I can just duplicate this off. And if we want something like Zremesh half, adaptive size down to 0. And we'll let that Zremesh just to, again, simplify this geometry so I can use it as an insert mesh brush. You don't have to, but there's no point in throwing a million polygon little foot on your object in most instances. Cool. Thanks for showing up, Toy. No problem, Voodoo. And why is this taking so long? Let's escape out of that. So we have X. Let's turn X on. Go ahead and delete that. Let's figure this out. Okay, so here's my foot. We're Z forward. I'm going to do a quick mirror and weld here, and then we'll do Zremesh. There we go. Let's do half, half, half. Okay, that'll work. So we'll call this my foot here, and we'll go ahead and scale this in just a little bit, a little thin foot. So I'm going to go, here's the bottom of the foot, let's say, and you know what, let's sculpt that out a little bit. Hit B, create insert mesh new, go back to our sculpt here, and so at the bottom here, we can go ahead and insert a foot. And I can match this up with the reference again, but for now we'll just kind of stick that on there. Here, and we'll just drag out a copy here. We'll spin that around. Okay, so insects have 6 legs, right? I think I'm done with those pieces. And for this one, we'll do another auto groups, mirror and weld, group split, Shift Z, go back to our snapped thing here, which I think we bumped, so we'll go ahead and drag that off and push that on. And now we can go through here and we can go, oh, okay, this arm, way too big. Let's go ahead and mirror it, or go to Unmatched Mesh Center. And we'll stick this here-ish, and then this piece here is way too big. And then this little hand here should be something like this. That'll work. If you want to move all these things at once, you can go into your gizmo here and you can turn on this move transpose all selected subtools, and then you can hold down Control Shift, and you can go through here and you can like tap all the subtools you want to move at once, and then you can just move them around. Or what I'm going to do in this instance is I'm going to do a quick merge visible. I'm going to go to this merge subtool here, and now I can just quickly go through here and move these things around together. And we still have mask by polygroups up to 100. But if you, let's do a quick mirror and weld. Hit X, go across X symmetry here. So we can kind of start moving these things around here. Something like that. All right. What do you use? Zremesh versus Dynamesh. So Zremesh is if I want a little bit more control over the geometry and this going through here and getting nice even quads for Zremesh. And then for Dynamesh, this would be if I wanted to do, say, let's do a group split. So if I want to start sculpting on this head, which I'm going to start doing, I can go to solo mode here. And now instead of going through here and like using my clay brush, then subdividing and using my clay brush and subdividing and using my clay brush, which is fine to do as long as your geometry isn't going to change too much. But what I usually prefer to do is we'll just turn on Dynamesh, and now we have something I can continuously update. So I'll use Zremesh once I'm done doing stuff like, I wish I had that back bottom menu here. Once I'm done doing stuff like this, it's like, okay, I want to Dynamesh this and get all these crazy shapes going. And then once I'm done with this, I'll Zremesh it, project the details back, and then I have a nice quadded mesh that I can add subdivision history to. But I want to do Zremesh after I've finished making major changes. So if I'm just exploring the idea, I'll use Dynamesh. And also remember, in 2018, you don't have to use, I mean, you can use Dynamesh if you want to, but if you want automatic tessellation, you can go in here and you can use, turn mask by polygroups down to 0. You can use Sculptures Pro mode, and you can just dynamically tessellate where you want that detail. So you can go through here, and while you're sculpting, it'll just automatically, and again, it works with the snake hook brush as well. So instead of when we were snake hooking earlier, actually, you know what? Let's do BS sphere. So you can see as I pull out, it's automatically tessellating, and as I pull out through here, it's automatically giving me more geometry. So when I pull out, it just keeps updating the geometry. If you make your brush smaller, it'll give you more geometry. If you make it bigger, it'll give you less. You can even go in here and smooth and get rid of this stuff on the fly. So you can use, and you can use it with Dynamesh. If I Dynamesh, it all goes back to my original resolution, which may not be what you want. You can also go into geometry Tessimate, and you can use Tessimate kind of like a Dynamesh. Oh, another thing with this one is if we, let's go mask pin, Control W, and then we can like mask just this polygroup. And then when we use our brush with this and we say, I mean, you don't have to make polygroups. That was just to visually show you the difference between these two separate areas here. So we can go through here and we can use Sculptures Pro. So now if we don't Dynamesh, we can go through here and these things will always be separate meshes. So if I hold down Shift to smooth, we can smooth these two meshes separately. And if we hold down R or tap R and then mask out, these aren't going to stick together. However, if you Dynamesh them, it's going to Dynamesh them together and stick them together. If you don't want to use Dynamesh, that's where you can go in here to your menu and you can do Remesh by Union. And let's take off X symmetry. So there we go. And we can say that's fine, we'll accept it. And now with our Remesh by Union has stuck those together. So you can use just Sculptures Pro with Remesh by Union instead of Dynamesh to kind of get the same result. And like I said before, you can just hold down Shift and you can just obliterate those completely if you want. So up to you. A lot of different options. And if you want more info on that, go to my YouTube channel. And let me double check this real quick. YouTube uploads. Okay. Yeah, go to my YouTube channel. Go to my playlists. Sorry. And then if you go down to ZBrush 2018, what's new? There's all sorts of goodies in there for Sculptress Pro. I call it Sculptress Plus a lot in the video, so I'm meaning Sculptress Pro. Just so you know. How do you render an image? Simple. Just hit this little BPR up in the corner. We'll get into rendering, I think, later in this video if I have enough time. We'll probably take it into KeyShot, but we can also do a little bit of ZBrush stuff. Torn clothing in ZBrush. Do I have that in my streaming topics? I'll add it. I mean, it should be something like... I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. How do I flip half of the mesh in a subtool and merge it back? So we have a subtool. I want to flip half of the mesh, or we have a subtool here. I want to flip half of it. I mean, you can do whatever you want. If you want to take, like, I want to take this leg only, go out of X symmetry, isolate it, Control-Shift, visibility, go ahead and split hidden, and now this is its own subtool, so you can do a mirror, deformation mirror across the X, and then you can do whatever you want to, and then you can merge those back down, subtool merge. And if you want to do the same on the both sides, you can go mirror, mirror, and weld, or actually let's turn off LSim, do a mirror and weld. So you can do whatever you want and then use the deformation mirror to get it to the other side, as long as you're Z forward and we're going across the X-axis. Let's go ahead and do auto groups, mirror and weld, and we'll delete hidden. So, okay, I think we've got this to a point here. Let's go ahead, hit Control W, and we'll turn Dynamesh back on. And we will, let's go ahead and sculpt out where the eyeballs are going to go, and we'll go ahead and drag in a sphere. Something like this, and then we'll go ahead and do a split mask points, and we can go ahead and subdivide the sphere up if we want to. And if we don't like those polarized caps here, all we got to do is, we'll just do a Zremesher same, data size down to 0, and now we've got just nice smooth geo. All right, so on a B head, these B eyes kind of bulge out here, and then through here it looks like they're a little bit more aggressive looking here, and then we can go, let's turn off polyframe. And again, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time detailing this out, but if we wanted to, it would just be a matter of just looking at your reference, making sure it matches. And he's got his little mandibles in here, which is just going to be covered in fur. But if we want to, let's go ahead and drop in a sphere, and then we'll go ahead and split mask points, and then let's turn on LSim. So when I don't turn on LSim and I start scaling, it goes to the world axis. Turn on LSim, and now we can scale along its local axis here, and then we can rotate this in. Little pinchers here, and we'll inflate. I could bring in reference for this, but I think I'm just going to wing it. So, standard brush, smooth this out, smooth stronger. That'll work. And then the antenna, we could do it, you know, let's try something else. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to do an insert Z-sphere, and then with the Z-sphere selected, I'm going to go hit X, go across X symmetry, E to scale it down, turn on transparency, and hit Q, and on either side I'm going to drag out a little Z-sphere, and then hold down Shift as I drag out a new Z-sphere. So now I can position little antennas exactly where I want them. This will like come out. This will come down. There we go. So Now we've got that. I can leave them as Z-spheres, or if I want to, I can go all the way down here to adaptive skin. And if we hit preview, or you can see if we hit A, that turns on your adaptive skin, and it's turning it into a Dynamesh mesh. If you want, you can take Dynamesh resolution down to 0, and that'll just give you quads, density down to 1. I think that'll work. Let's hit make adaptive skin. That's going to throw that adaptive skin right out here somewhere. There it is. So now we'll insert that skin Z-sphere. We don't need the Z-sphere anymore, so we'll go ahead and delete it. And we also don't need these inside polygroups, so we'll go ahead and say you and you are dead to me. And then we'll go back in here with our Z-modeler brush. We'll do close convex hole, and we'll just cap that off. Control W, make it all one polygroup. There we go. Cool. Now, let me get a drink. Okay. So let's talk about how we're going to finish this thing off. Looking at bumblebees, it looks like they've got big pads of fur. Let me just throw this in here. So big pads of fur in here, and this is just kind of generally fuzzy. On some of them, it looks like they're more plated on here. Let's do that one. It shouldn't be too difficult. So what we can do is we can take this back end. His thorax looks really tiny compared to the other one. So what I'm going to do, looks like he's very front heavy. And on a lot of these other ones, they're a little bit more balanced, or at least maybe even back heavy here. So that could be just a weird piece of reference here. If I want to match something else, let's go to texture, import. And you know what, we'll just take this top view. Go ahead and select that top view, position it, and we'll snap to our top view here. And now we can kind of see if we're compatible here. So what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and hit Alt to go ahead and stick this right in the middle here, and I'm going to make some adjustments. Executive decision here. So here's my, I guess my abdomen or thorax, I can't remember. And then we're going to put the little butt in here. And then from a side view, we don't really have one, but I can kind of eyeball that. And we're going to go ahead and pull this out to like a little point kind of thing. And one thing I've learned is getting your block out right, even though it's not real pretty, especially when you're doing like hard surface modeling and matching something, is keep it as simple and as ugly, not as ugly, but it's not going to be real impressive for a while. But keep it as simple as you can for as long as you can and get that block out really, really tight. And then once you start adding details and stuff, everything just falls into place. If you don't do that and you move ahead too quickly, you'll probably end up regretting it. So I think we're in good shape. Anything sticking out to me? Okay, so if we wanted to do the plating, what we can do is we got our thorax here and we want to put like 1, 2, maybe split this up into 3 different plates here. So I'm going to duplicate this off because I always like to go back to my original. I'm going to go back here and we're going to slice. And we're going to slice this into 1, 2, 3 different parts here. And then also, we can have the body underneath. It looks like it has different plating than the top. And we could even skip the fuzz on here, but I think this looks a little bit different than the other one. So we'll make it all fuzzy, but I do want it kind of layered and plated. So I want different polygroups here. And on the bottom here, it looks like it has different fur. So I'm just going to go through here and I'm just going to slice this. So now we've got these parts here. Let's try this. Let's go to Zremesh, keep groups on, and then do same in Zremesh. And that'll give me different geometry, keeping our polygroup. So now it's a little bit cleaner. And I think that'll work. So now we've got these top plates and these bottom plates, and we've got our original underneath that we can use for quality purposes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate. Let's hold down Control Shift. Select rectangle. I'm going to isolate these. We're going to split them off. And then for this bottom one here, let's do this. Looks like there's even more plates. So I'm going to say you and you and you and you. And we're going to do another Zremesh keep groups. There we go. So this one will have more plates. And then this thing here, I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to hold down Alt, go to the mesh center, and just scale this down so it's inside the plates here. So now I've got these things. If you want, we can try going over here to Geometry Edge Loop, and we can do like panel loops to give us some thickness. which I think will work. And then on this bottom one here, we'll crank that thickness up a little bit. Yeah, that'll be fine. And then we can go through here with our move brush, and we can kind of make these stick in here, and then these outside ones here. So now, not only does that give us a little bit of a paneled look, insecty look, it's also going to allow us to assign different fiber meshes to these different polygroups here, and we'll have a little bit more control. So also, you know what? Let's do a quick, I mean, if you want to, you can keep these groups here. They're kind of useful. I don't think I'll necessarily need them. Maybe I will. I'm going to hold down Shift, and we're just going to smooth those corners a little bit. And then on this one, we'll just push these in. I think that'll work. Okay, and then this guy, we're just going to Polypaint. I don't see any real panels there. I keep calling them panels. I don't know what they're called. B panels. All right, let's turn off our floor, and we'll go ahead and sculpt this out. And this head, you know what? I'm going to hit W. I'm going to hit X to go out of X symmetry, hold down Alt. I'm going to go to this mesh center here, hold down Alt and reset it. And then I'm going to go into move multiple subtool mode right here. And I'm going to say, I want all use guys, so I can kind of just move all this stuff out at once. I just want to be able to see his head separation a little bit better. That'll work. Turn that off. Alt tap this one, and we'll go ahead and get that out of his neck a little bit more. Okay, that doesn't bug me quite as much. So now let's talk about fur and using fur as something that's sculptable. We'll see how well it goes. So we'll start with the body here. So what we can do is I'm going to divide this a couple times just to get a little bit more resolution on here. And I'm also going to go in here and we're going to Polypaint this. So we're going to start with, I wonder if I can just drag out. No. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Movie, turn off Show. We're going to grab a plane 3D, go into Edit Mode, make Polymesh 3D. We're going to go back into our reference here, and we'll use this guy down here. I'm going to hit Z. I don't need this B anymore, so I'm going to delete it. And then this B we can bring back. And what we can do, you know what, we can actually just apply this image to this plane, because all I'm doing is taking color from here, so let's do that. You can paint, what I was going to do is like you can divide up the plane, and then you can use your standard brush with RGB turned on, and you can just paint that image onto the plane, or your polyplane the same size as the chosen texture. Like a flat color material, and we can do Shift S, or we can go out of edit mode and leave that sitting there. And now we can go to back to our model here. So now if we want was, damn. You know, I learn these things and then I immediately forget it. There's a way to make your text and then go ahead and say, I want you to be the yellow part. And that's kind of just like a little saddle along his back here. And that's it. We're done. No, I'm just kidding. So we've got this here, and we need to do Fibermesh. So if we go down here, from here, and we can just sample any color we want. So that's all I was doing. We'll go ahead and take this yellow, and we'll go ahead and switch to maybe Skin Shader 4. So we've got this one selected. We're going to fill. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Texture map. You can grab the B, and then there's a way to Alt or fill object. I have that set to Alt Control F, and now we can go through here with maybe a darker black, and we can say, you know, it's probably easier just to fill with the black, and then sample here, ZBrush make your plane the exact same size as your texture reference, the same ratio. I don't remember how to do it, but I'm going to hit Control D to subdivide this up. And you can just use this texture sitting out here. So if I do, let's switch to Zremesh and we say Preview. Now we're going to be getting our Fibermesh here. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Modifiers. The base here, we're going to do base colorize. Damn, I don't remember how to do it. You know what? I'm just going to manually stretch this out so it looks fine. Now we can do, oops, looks like I accidentally grabbed that here. So there's a way. And tip colorize. And I want that colorize to be the same color as my mesh here. So I have, it looks like I have the tip down to 0 and my base up to 1, and now it's inheriting the Polypaint onto my Fibermesh. And if you remember, we did this with an anteater in one of my earlier live stream episodes. That reminds me, let me check something real quick, sorry. Okay. So we've got this Fibermesh here, and if you just want to like render this out, we can switch over to like, what do we want to switch over to? We can switch over to a hair. Oh, we had hair matte cap here. Am I crazy? There it is. You can switch over to a hair or hair 2. And if we render this with BPR, that'll go ahead and render all these little fibers with all the shadows and stuff and give you a nice bumblebee render. But this is a little bit dense for what our purposes are going to need. So let's go back to Skin Shader 4. And I'm going to play around with these settings right here. So the modifiers here, under max fibers, if we're going to be 3D printing these out, we're going to want these pretty low and also pretty chunky. So I'm going to drop the max fibers down. And then we're going to go over here to the coverage. I'm going to crank that up. And then we're also going to do, if you want to really crank it up, you can change this width profile. And that'll give you the full access to all the coverage here. You can also change anything that has a setting. You can go in here to variance. So this will give you a little bit of variation between these settings. And now if we take this one, and we can also change our length profile. So we made them really fat and they're kind of stumpy, which is what this fur is basically. But if we crank up our max fibers a little bit or down, and then our length we can change. And you're going to see it kind of looks like cards. If we go in here and BPR render this one, you're going to see it kind of turns into chunky cubes. Where that's coming in is under your BPR settings. You're going to have, it's going to subdivide it so they get a little bit smoother. So they're going to subdivide it once. It's going to say it's 4 sides and the radius is 1. So if we want to increase the size so it's not cubes, we can say maybe 6 sides. And then when we BPR render this again, now you can see, let's go ahead and do this. You can see now we have 6-sided geometry. Now if you want to actually see that geometry, what you can do is, I mean, if you're just going to render it, I would say keep it nice and not, you can just use this, and then when you go to render, you're going to know it's going to turn into chunky geometry. But if you do want to see it, you can go up here to this profile, and this profile is going to be kind of like the side slider here. So if you change this profile up to say 5, it's going to tell you, if you just want to render, use BPR, which is what we just did. This is going to slow down our interaction, so if we hit OK, now we're going to get 5-sided fibers here, and then our segments, if we crank that up, it's going to add more segments. So as I lower the segments, you're going to see it's only going to be, it's going to stick straight out. Let's change our length here so we can see that a little bit better. Length, profile. So as I make these longer, you're going to see it goes 1, 2, 3. And then as I increase these segments to like 6, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're getting that kind of result. Another thing we can do, profile, segments. So we can just use that, I think. And then if we change the length back down. So instead of using like a vector displacement, you can use this to get just big chunky fur. here, and also the gravity settings here. So the gravity, if we crank that down, it's just going to stick out like fur is. If you crank it up, it's going to like make him look shaggy. So probably the gravity we can just turn down to 0. And then we can change our, oh, also scale root and scale tip. It's kind of getting smaller towards the tip. If you want that more, you can scale the tip down so it kind of goes to a point. If you want it less, you can obviously just make that 1, 1, and 1. It'll be the exact same here. So we'll go ahead and scale that root. We'll say root is 1, tip, we can go ahead and scale out. And then our length profile and our coverage you can also change depending on how much of this, how much fidelity you want. If you think you can get away with 3D printing this, you can give it a shot. If not, you can change your max fibers down, like way down, and then try and crank your coverage up just to kind of fill in those spots. And also that length profile is a little long. So we can say, let's really just kind of dial in our max fibers here. So that's kind of the look we're getting. So if we like this, we can save this into our lightbox if we want, because if you go in here to lightbox fibers, there's a bunch of presets you can choose from that are really cool. If we do the flower, if we have enough time, we can do the flower, and we can use some of those presets. But I think that'll be fine. Yeah, that'll work. So let's talk about propagating this to the other thing. So like I said, we can save here, and we can also do any of these things. You can copy these curves, but I don't think that's what we're going to need. So we'll call this chunky bumblebee fur. And so we can always pull this back in. Now if we go back here to the body, these individual segments, it looks like it's got yellow, yellow, and then black. And then this is all black on the bottom, but it looks like it's more insecty and less fuzzy. So we can go ahead and keep that. If you're doing like cartoony stuff, you can just, pick and choose your battles of how you want to have this created. So let's go ahead and on this one, we're going to go ahead and have Fibermesh turned on. Let's go ahead and open our chunky bumblebee fur. And if we want to polypaint this, we can sample from here. All we got to do is hit C. That's another thing too. You can drag here and sample, or you can just hover over and hit C and it'll sample. So if we want to copy this yellowish here, we can do that. And then we can do fill. And then we can do base colorize, tip colorize here. Let's see, preview off, preview on. There we go. I guess you got to go out of preview mode. And then if you want to, if it's like, you know what, this is too chunky or it's not chunky enough, you can change those settings as needed. Also, on this back one here, we know that this, let's turn off preview here. This one should be black, so I'm going to isolate this. We have polygroups here, so I'm going to do hold down Control Shift A to grow just this part here. And then we'll go ahead and sample this color, fill it. And now when we bring our preview back, those will all be black fuzzies. And then this one should still have Fibermesh, this one should still have Fibermesh, and this one I'm actually going to do max fibers up a little bit, and then length profile. Actually, we'll do length profile is fine. I'm going to do this coverage. I'm going to crank this down just a little bit. Okay. And do I have like dynamic solo on? I want to see all of my Fibermesh, but it's turning them off in between. That's okay. Now, where the hair's a little bit sparser, and again, if we're just talking about 3D printing, dial in your settings to get you the chunkiest version. You know what, we'll talk about this. So what I can do is I can duplicate this off, and we can turn on Fibermesh here. And if we just want to turn this into real geometry, you can go over here to geometry, and you can say, well, this isn't BPR, I'm sorry. So we're going to go to Fibermesh here, and we're going to say accept, wherever that is, there it is, accept. So now we have Fibermesh sitting out here. Where are we at? Here, here. We've accepted this Fibermesh. Let's go into solo mode here. There we go. So now we have geometry. Hit the accept button faster. Hit no. so there we go. Now we've accepted that. Now it's real geometry, but you can still treat it like Fibermesh because you can go into Brush Groom, and now you can do like Groom Hair Toss, and you can go through here and you can kind of comb these fibers whichever way you want. And it is just geometry here, so if you wanted to like go in here with your inflate brush or your smooth brush, you can do whatever you want to, but it's geometry. So having said all that, what I'm going to do is, now that we have real geometry here, oh, you know what? I'll fix this in a minute. What we should do is just put the fur on the outside so we don't have all this inside fur. Oh, that looks kind of cool. We can fix that in a second. So I've got this as real geometry here. Let's go ahead, and this is the original geometry, and now we have separate subtool for our fur that we can groom. Was there a cap option in here? I don't remember. That's okay. Let's try this. Let's do a quick close holes operation. That'll go ahead and close all of your holes. And now we can do, like I said, it's just geometry, so feel free to do whatever you'd like to it. And if you want to just Dynamesh this together to give it a solid envelope, you can go through here and you can Dynamesh. Of course, you're probably going to crank that resolution up. Give it a second. And we'll go ahead and turn off Polypaint as well. So if we turn off Polypaint here, you're going to see this is all just one solid envelope here. Again, may not be suitable for 3D printing. In fact, you know, getting all these little spiky, fuzzy things 3D printed might be a pain. So what we can do is you can say, that's another thing too. You can groom this back. So BG groom lengthen maybe. No. Hair toss. You can kind of comb this back. It might be kind of a pain. What I would do is go ahead and delete that. Let's go back to our original here, and we'll turn our preview back on. What you can also do is I'm going to tilt this backwards. And so we're kind of this way, and I'm going to turn gravity up. So now that hair is just kind of flowing backwards, and now when you Dynamesh this, you'll get the illusion of like clumping, like so. And also, to get rid of these insides, what we can do is we can turn off preview, we can hold down Control Shift, and we can isolate just these little top sections here from our poly groups, and we can hold down Control and tap, so just those areas are masked. And then when we turn our preview back on, now we're just getting hair on those outsides. So wherever you have it masked is where your hair will end up. Cool. Let me catch up real quick. Cool, thanks for showing up, D. Michael, about your gumroad for low-res UV textures, is Iray and Paint are similar to Keyshot. I don't like Marmoset very much. Yeah, it should. It's similar to Keyshot. Keyshot's a little bit easier, and you can do things like translucency and glass a lot easier. Iray, you kind of got to mess. Iray, you might not even be able to do it. You can kind of, no, I'm not sure if you can. Iray is great for when you're in Painter. You can just hit the Iray button and you'll get a very, very, I guess, ray traced image. It's very good shadows. Your materials look great, but it doesn't have the drag and drop material functionality. You have to go back into Painter and then do your material settings and then come back into Iray. So you might be kind of limited if you wanted to do like liquid or glass in Substance Painter's Iray. That just might be me though. There might be a way to do it. I'm not quite exactly sure what that is, but yeah, and you know, you can use Marmoset too. We might go into that. Hotkey for picking the color was C. So if you just hover over anything in your scene, in fact, you can even hover over interface items. If you want this Pixelogic orange, just hit C and then you'll get it. Or you can just drag from in here anywhere in your interface, even over here, and you can just pick that color. Cool, cool, cool. Alrighty, so we got this and we got this. So I think we're getting pretty close. So I'm going to take this eyeball here, and I know it's not pretty, but you know, if you're doing a bunch of talking, I'm going to hit D for dynamic subdivisions on these objects here. And you know what? While I'm thinking about it, do I need to clean this up at all? Nah, we're fine. Let's go ahead and do, I'm going to do a quick Zremesh, same, adaptive size down to 0. There we go. Just because I'm going to turn off Dynamesh. All right, so for this head, really quickly, we can go ahead and polypaint this thing so that I'm going to sample here, and I'm going to, we'll sample black, fill, sample here, and then we can paint in, looks like he's got a little fuzzy orange mohawk. So I'm going to go in here with my standard brush, and we're going to put in just a little bit of here. And you can also, like I said, if we go in here and we turn off polypaint, you can see where we want that hair to end up, and you can actually use morph targets to dictate your hair length, which I don't know we might talk about. But let's say I just want the hair here. Everything else should be nice, shiny, insecty. So we can say, okay, this is where I want the hair. So we can turn our polypaint back on, and then we're going to go back into our Fibermesh. We're going to open chunky bumblebee fur, and then it'll just be in that masked area. So, and this is another thing too. So we've talked about the vector displacement part. So let's make this a little bit more, little fuzzier. So, not the vector displacement. We talked about using chunky fur to get you a better 3D printed result. Like here, you know, lay them down a little bit and Dynamesh them together and smooth it, and that'll give you a quick preview of like chunky fur. And again, it's what I did for this little cowboy dude that I made for Eat3D for his mustache and his eyebrows. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change these settings. So I'm going to say max fibers up, coverage down. And you know what? We can even do, I wonder if we can do just a BPR. You know, I want it to be real geo, because if we throw this into Keyshow, I want to make sure it translates properly. So we'll go ahead and say length profile down. Let's turn his gravity back to 0 here. So now we've got this type of fur, and we've got max fibers up, and our length here. So now as we change the length, we can change the variance, and now we're going to get, the less variance you have, the more even it's going to be. So if you want to look like shag carpeting, turn that down to 0. And then the more variance you put in, the more natural it kind of looks. It's like some are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter. So you can kind of dial that in. And then we'll go ahead and say, save this as bumblebee fur. And now we can alt-tap back over to here, and we can open bumblebee fur, and we'll just copy those settings. And on this one, it looks like we got to crank the max fibers up just a bit. And then on his hair here, we'll swap that over. And this one, I'm going to crank the max fibers down, because it looks like it is a little bit sparse, you know, on his little mohawk here. And we can also change this. We can groom this and make this kind of like much more, a lot more variance in here, but this is just kind of setting it up. Okay, so we've got that, we've got this one. For the leg hairs here, let's go ahead and just quickly, I'm going to sample this. And let's make sure, okay, Polypaint's turned off all these, so we're going to fill this with, you know, let's fill that with black. And then these are kind of orangey, dark brown, so I'm going to go ahead and fill this one. Now to make these a little smoother looking, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit, I'm not going to make real subdivisions because I don't need to add all that real geometry. I'm just going to hit D on my keyboard, and that's going to turn on dynamic subdivision. So I can throw this into Keyshot later, and it'll take my dynamic subdivisions in there. So I hit D. You're going to see if I go into solo mode here. If I do Shift D, this is what it looks like. If I do D, that's what a preview of what's going to look like if I subdivided this a couple times. I'd like to use dynamic subdivisions when at all possible instead of real subdivisions. And then even on the antenna up here, let's go ahead and sample that black, fill, and then we could, you know, we could make the antenna a little bit more accurate, but oh well. Let's hit D. And then for the eyeballs here, we've already hit D, and that'll be a different material, but it will be black. And then these little chompers here, looks like those are also black, so we'll go ahead and fill those in. And then for the underbody here, all that's black. And then I've got a little bit, this little thing in here, I'll go ahead and hit D and fill that in. Oops. And we'll also hit D and D. Okay, so a little bit of prettier here. And then on the legs here, it looks like on either side, let's go ahead and turn off Polypaint. It has hair back here, and then hair back here. Yeah, I think. It's kind of hard to tell if it's like a Fresnel effect or they actually do just hit, oh, you know what, it goes all the way around their legs. It's just very sparse. So we'll go ahead and save out another preset once we get this figured out. So we'll say Fibermesh Preview, and we will say Open. We'll start with our bumblebee fur, and we're going to change our max fibers way down, like this maybe. And we're going to turn that gravity up because these ones are long enough to where the gravity does start affecting them. And we'll also maybe change our coverage just a little bit. Yeah. All right. Turn this back on. Preview on and off so we pick up the color underneath. And now on this one, the color is actually independent from the leg. So what I'm going to do is this base colorize, I'm going to turn to 0, and we're just going to select, I wonder if I can just choose that orange here. And then the tip colorize will do the same. And then tip colorize up to 1. There we go. And then base colorize, we're going to make this a little bit of a darker orange. So it's going to go from dark orange to a lighter orange here. And we'll change that max fibers up just a little bit. Okay, so we'll save this as leg hair. And really quickly, we're going to assign it here. Got leg hair. And then up here. Yeah, okay, I think we're close. Oh, we got to do the wings too. That'll be fun to render. And then the rest of this stuff too, we can just open leg hair, and then I'm going to change this length profile down, and also, yeah, way down. So this is kind of just fuzzy. And I'll tap this one. Length profile down. We can also use Nanomesh for something else real quick. You know what? I wonder if this orange I'm picking up isn't just pollen, because it looks like the hairs are actually just, the legs are, well, they're bounce light is what I'm assuming this is. All right, let's do this. Easy enough. Just going through here, alt tapping and filling. Okay, so back to here, back into place. At least we got my snake hooks back. That's nice. All right, so back where we started. So we've got this here. Let's go back through and do our fiber mesh. So this one we needed to open. Streaming, bumblebee, leg hair, modifiers, length profile. Whew. Okay, we got this, we got this. Everybody's got hair. Let's go ahead and convert this hair. You know what, let's turn on, I wonder if there is a, so under Z plugin here, there's a, and actually while I'm working, let's go into preferences here, and we're going to go into undo history, and we'll do undo history. No, sorry, quick save, stupid. Maximum duration, we're going to crank that up. Alright, so we've got this, and we've got this, and this one doesn't have any fibers, but this one does. Okay, so I think we're in good shape. Now, under Clean Tool Master, I want to see if it has Fibermesh all. One thing we might be able to try. Let's try this. Z repeat it. Let's do, I'm going to say, let's go to our top subtool here, just because I'm nervous. I'm going to go here, and we're going to record new, and we're going to say, accept, damn. Let's say always yes. Let's end that recording, and we'll just escape out of that. Now that we've gone through that message, I want to go here. This one. Now let's say record new, accept, and record. Accept Fibermesh, and then we'll do, I'm not going to repeat to all because I don't want to jinx these two right here, but I am going to show all of the pieces that I want to have Fibermesh. Let's see if this will just work. So I'm going to turn off all of these subtools here that I don't have Fibermesh on, just in case, since I've never done this before. I'm hedging my bets. It might work, it might not. Okay, so now, so this one we've already done. So now all the rest of these have Fibermesh turned on. And I want to go ahead and have accept for all the visible ones here. So we're going to say accept Fibermesh for visible. I guess not. I was hoping that would work, but looks like it didn't. So let's just go through here manually, and we'll say accept, and then accept, and then accept, and then accept, 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 and accept. So now when you turn everything back on, now we've got a little bumblebee here. Oops, we need to accept this one. And like I said before, if you want to, you can go through here and you can start sculpting out, like with snake hook, even. Oh, make sure you have RGB turned off if you don't want to. You can go through here and polypaint this. So you can use groom, you can use lengthen, you can use smooth. If you want to kind of like taper this down a little bit, you can smooth those fibers out. Go through here and do whatever you'd like. And then also, yeah, if you did want to polypaint this, let's go ahead and turn off Polypaint for everybody, but like the underlying body here, I don't necessarily want to Polypaint on. Yeah, that's true. I guess we can leave that on. Yeah, we'll see how it renders. So we got all this here, and then yeah, if we want to, we can go ahead and hold down Smooth, and we can hold down Shift, and then smooth these out. If we want to change like the length of these things, and another thing we can do is if I Alt tap here, and we have these little bottom leg parts here, we can go to my Z modeler brush. Let's do this. I'm going to grab my Polymesh 3D here. I'm going to go to BI brush insert primitives. We're going to hit W, and I'm going to steal this really simple polysphere. In fact, we can even simplify this more, maybe, if we go to Geometry Reconstruct. Yeah. So I don't think we need to go down that far, but if you can reconstruct this all the way back down to a cube if you wanted to. So we've got this here. We're going to use this as our pollen. So now that we've got this just sitting out here, now I can go back to my B here. And let's do Again, we've got this leg selected here, so let's try this. Let's go to our Nanomesh, Geometry Nanomesh, and it'll go, we can insert polygon particles on all of these things. So if I go in here and I go to my Z-modeler brush, I hover over a face and I do insert Nanomesh on all polygons here, and I'm going to hit M and I'm going to grab that Polymesh 3D we made, and now I can just pull out little pollen globules on that leg, and now we can do random distribution, and we can also change the size down a little bit, and we can also go in here to like variances just to kind of make this offset variances we probably don't need to worry too much about. And then show placement. I guess we can leave that on. So we can kind of put little pollen globules in here. So let's go ahead and make those sizes a little bit smaller here. And that offset, X offset, I don't want Y offset, doesn't matter. Z offset's what I'm looking for. So I can kind of have it just like sitting in the hair out here. So you can kind of have little globules here. If you're happy with this, you can go, now this is BPR Geo, I believe. So you can go up here to Geometry, convert BPR to Geo, or you can go here to Inventory, one to Mesh. So now you can Control-Shift-Click your pollen globules, split those off, and we can go ahead and fill that. Colors, oops. Fill that with yellowish or something. And now you have like little pollen stuck in his hair. Okay. Whew. We've got a bee. Let's see if we can like BPR render this real quick. See what kind of job it does. Cool. So, and there's a lot of fur on here, so it might take a little bit to render, but we'll throw this into Keyshot. There we go. So we get a nice fuzzy little bee. This hair back here is a little bit chunky. That's okay. We can figure that out. So another thing let's do before we go into Keyshot is I'm going to go to Texture, Import. We're going to grab that top view, select it. I'm going to hit, since I'm not going to be sampling any more colors, I don't think, I'm going to hit Control-N to clear my canvas here, and we'll go ahead and not fade, we want to scale. Okay, so we got our bumblebee, and we got his little legs and his little antennas going. Now we need wings on here. So what I can do is really quickly, we'll grab a plane 3D, go into edit mode, make it a polymesh, scale it up, and we can do both sides at the same time if we want to. We can hit X to go across X symmetry, just make sure this is centered. And we'll go ahead and subdivide this plane up, so we can go in here and we can mask where the wings are, and we can do even, looks like they've got a couple wings here, so we'll do one wing first, and then we'll do another wing next. So I'm going to say, this is my one wing. We're going to hit Control-W to make it a polygroup here, and we'll just duplicate this plane off. Hit Control-W, and now we'll do the second wing. So we've got a duplicate plane with our little wings on here, and we'll hit Control-W. So now I can isolate this right here. We can go to delete lower on our subdivision history, delete hidden. Let's go ahead and I want to round out those aliased edges here. So we're going to go to masking, border. Let's go ahead and grow that, invert that, and then we'll go to our deformation menu. I'm going to do polish by features. And now again, we can really quickly Zremesh half, adapt the size down to 0, and just get really simple geometry for our wings to start with. And that'll be the basic shape. We'll go back to our other polyplane here, isolate that, delete hidden, oops, delete lower, delete hidden. And the only reason I'm masking this border and trying to polish this out is just so when it Zremeshes it goes a little bit faster and it gives me a little bit of a better result here. There we go. So we can bring this back, and if we want to, there's a couple different ways we can get that vein pattern on there. We can even hard surface model that, and if we wanted to. Nah, let's do this. Let's do Z sketching. So I've got this here. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna hit Z. I'm gonna scale this up so we can see what we're doing a little bit better here. And I'm just gonna do one-sided for now. So hold down Control Shift, get rid of that. A lot of different ways. You can just put this into the texture. You can polypaint it on. You can polypaint. So if I do subdivide this up, and again we go to standard brush, and we just want to like paint that on there, you can definitely just paint the texture right onto the vertices there. But what I'm going to do instead, because I want that to render differently than the wings themselves, I'm going to make that separate geometry. So let's look at what we're doing here. Okay, so we've got this here, and I think I'm going to use Z sketch. And while we're here, let's go ahead and, there we go. Just kind of move this stuff into place here. So this wing right here, we're going to hide you temporarily. Okay, we've got this. And now what we're going to do is Z-sketch this pattern on here. I think it'll work. Let's try. First thing I'm going to do, let's just try it. So we need to do Z-sketching. We need to insert a Z-sphere. And the Z-sphere here, we can do it across symmetry, but since I've only got one wing, I'm just going to scale it down. And then go over here to Z-sketch, go into Edit Sketch Mode, and then see if I can't draw. Let's do Shift-Z. Can I draw on a single-sided? Okay, I can, but why is it going on to... Let's turn on... Oh, is this flipped? No. Turn on double. Z sketching. Edit sketch. Of course it's going to the other side. Alright, let's try this. So with this sketch here, let's go to our brush depth, and I'm going to pop this out to the other side. Ah! That'll work. I'll bed that just a little bit more. You little thing. Okay, so we can Z-sketch here. Let's go back to our reference here. We've got our polyplane here. So let's go through and just kind of put in where these lines are going to go. And I'm just going to turn this into geometry later. I mean, it is turning, I mean, this is like Z. Is this how it looks? Yeah, I guess it does. Like a little crystalline pattern here. Uh-oh. Just lost the monitor. So again, we're just kind of drawing on little thin geometry here. Oh, you know what? This probably doesn't belong. That goes to the other one. Yeah, it's fine. And then right back along here, it looks like the wings kind of get a little thicker. Okay, so, and also in here, we'll make this just kind of a thick blob where it attaches. So now with Z-sketching, you can hold down Shift and you can like smooth these things out. If you want more information about Z-sketching, go to my intro to ZBrush, blah, 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 blah. So here we have our Z-sketch here, and that's geometry that's sitting right on our plane, which is going to be our wing. And our wing is going to need a little bit of thickness. I don't want to render single-sided. So what I'm going to do is, so on this front part here is going to be thicker, and then on the back part it's going to be thinner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say you are QMesh polygroup all. We're going to pull out some thickness here, turn off double, so we're not accidentally doing anything crazy. And then looking at it from the side, let's see if we can't do a, hold on, Alt, go to Unmesh Mesh Center, and let's push this towards the front and see if we can't do some sort of taper. Not exactly what I was looking for. Let's try deformer, X, Y, and Z. Oops. X, Y, and Z, resolution down to 1. And then I'm going to mask, excuse me, mask these, unmask just these edges here. And now we can scale, come on. Scale this side down. So we are going thicker to thinner here. And then we will say accept. And then go out of solo mode. So now I just want to see my Z sketching, and I probably should have done that thickness before I started Z sketching. And let's say my Z sketching here, I want this as just geometry here. So I'm going to say, just like when we were doing our Z spheres, if I hit A, that's going to give us a unified mesh. So we get unified skin here. So I'm going to say that resolution needs to be up a little bit. Maybe a lot. Maybe all the way. Oh, you know what? It's still giving me a Dynamesh resolution here. Let's turn that down to 0. There we go. So turn that Dynamesh resolution down to 0, and now you'll get a slightly better unified skin result. So there's our unified skin results, and we can go through and change this however we want. So I'm going to say make unified skin. I'm going to go to Insert, Skin Z Sphere. Let's turn everything back on. Let's turn the Polypaints back on. And so we have our wing here. Let's really quickly, since you've seen that process, we can just really quickly burn through this one. I'm going to do the little wing here. I'm going to go out of X symmetry, kill that one, Shift Z. We've got this wing here that I think I need to change. And if you ever want to just make big changes here and then again go back down to, I don't want to go out of that X plane. And then you can go back into your deformation, polish by features. That'll kind of polish everything back. That'll work. So now really quickly, append, Z-sphere, E on your Z-sphere, scale it down, go into our Z-sketch, edit sketch, and we'll just put in that little crystalline structure here. Garrett says you could also download a black and white image of a wing and use an alpha to create 3D. Yeah, you could do that too. In fact, you could just paint that image. You could mask that and extract it as well if you wanted to. All right, so let's say we are good. I'm going to hit A. Unified skin resolution up. That'll work. Make unified skin. Z-sphere we don't need anymore. Append. All right, so now that I've got all these things, I'm going to hit Control-W for all these, make sure they all have a single poly group here. And then we will do a quick merge visible. And we'll throw them into our B scene. And we'll go ahead and rotate this around here. Let's go ahead and mirror that. And it looks like we're going to flip that, but okay. Something like this, and the wings dig in somewhere in here. And we can actually put a little bend in there, but we'll wait until this is all figured out. So let's do a quick group split. And then for This wing's already good. This wing, we need to go in here and do a Q-mesh polygroup all. I'm just going to give this a little bit of thickness. We'll go ahead and flip. Not double. Flip. There we go. And then this one here, we'll go ahead and move that up. And this one too. Alrighty. And I'm going to go ahead and Dynamesh all this together. And we can go in here and let's go ahead and thicken this side up. And just to make it a little bit more uniform, we can go through here and clip real quick. And let's go ahead and do a deformation, polish by features. Let's go to smooth stronger. Get a little bit of thick to thin on here. And we'll inflate this up. Alright, that'll work for now. And then this one, same deal. We're going to Alt-tap this one. Let's go into, if you want to, you can even just inflate all this all at once if you need to. I think this will work fine. So we'll go ahead and resolution up our Dynamesh here. And if you want to clean up some of this stuff, what you can do is you can turn on Sculptures Pro. And that'll get rid of those. And now you can go in here and inflate where you need to along the top. And then hold down Shift to smooth if you want to taper these ends out a little bit. And Dynamesh as you go. And then again, just to make this a little more regular. Now, if you were pulling and or extracting from an alpha, you wouldn't have to do the clip step, but it's not too terrible. And then you can go back in here with your standard brush. And let's turn on our lazy radius up a little bit. And I'm not doing a real B-wing study here, so I'm just kind of slapping it in there, making it good enough. Now, if I want to give this a little bit of bend, which it kind of looks like it has in these images here, I'm going to merge this one. Hold on Shift, shoot it to the top. Hold on this one, Shift, shoot it to the top. Merge it down. I'm going to do a quick mirror and weld. Oops. Let's do a quick there, mirror and weld. Actually, before we do a mirror and weld, let's go here and let's give it just a little bit of bend. You can go into bend arc, and that'll give it an overall bend. If you want a little bit more control, let's do a bend curve. And then now what we can do is we can say curve resolution up or down. We'll just keep it pretty simple. We'll bend here, bend it down a little bit. That'll work. And then on this one here, shoot to the top. Alt-tap, Shift, shoot it to the top, merge it down, W. Bend. And does this have, guess not. This is a little more geo than I thought, I guess. They accept. Come on. It's only 80,000 points. I wonder why it's choking a little bit. Okay, accept. And then we can move this big wing. Let's move the small wing up above the big wing, I think. I don't know. Something like that, maybe. And then we'll go ahead and split the wings off. So hold down Control Shift. We're going to grab this piece here. Control Shift A, split hidden. Grab this piece here. Control Shift A, split hidden. We can hit D for our dynamic subdivisions. Smooth those out a little bit. And now we can do mirror and weld, mirror and weld. Make sure you don't have LSIM turned on. Mirror and weld, mirror and weld, turn on colorize, and then all of the rest of that will be handled with key shot materials, which we got just enough time. Yeah, I think the bend deformer was doing something a little bit. I agree with Dirkzilla. I think the bend deformer was taxing my computer for some reason. Okay, so we've got this. Let's go ahead and save it. Should probably save more often than I am doing. And we'll throw this into Keyshot real quick. So we'll go ahead and render, external renderer, Keyshot, auto merge, off, and we'll hit BPR. And just a reminder, if you want any more information on kind of what we're doing here, you can go to my YouTube channel. If you go to my playlists, I know I go fast. You don't have to leave a comment about that. But what you can do, if you want to download my menu for whatever reason, you can go to my Gumroad page or my ZBrush page. But here's my playlists. You can just download and use that. Oops, hold on. Let's throw this over there. Yeah, I wonder. Oh, it's too much. Okay. It should be fine. I mean, it's a lot of polygons, don't get me wrong. And we can optimize that again, like he said, like ZBrush said, you can use BPR settings instead of making it real geometry like we did. But I wanted to show you guys the two options. Hold on. Yes, skip note, man. And let's bring up Camtasia Recorder. And hopefully this doesn't kill my live stream either. If it does, what are you gonna do? Okay, videos, everything's going fine. Okay. And I'm recording this, so if anything does happen, I can upload a better, newer version. Wait for it. And I'm also going to resize this window, so give me a second. I forgot my fiber mesh was a little heavy. And also, when I gave it 6 sides, that was probably overkill. What I should have done is kept it at 4 and then use smooth normals. And then also, when you do the length, if I'm... this is also a stupid thing. So optimization, you know what? Do we want to... So when I'm optimizing, I think I left the segments very long, so I was showing you like, hey, you can make this really long fiber, and then you can make segments to make it curve, and then I think I forgot to drop the segments down. So holler in the chat if hey Gam, thanks for showing up. Okay, sorry that took so long, but optimization, you always want to do that. Do as I say, not as I do, and pay attention to what you're doing. It's a little bit harder when I'm live streaming for my brain to work 100%, but that's something to keep in mind. So first thing we can do is we can go over here to our environments and we can say, let's do a Pixelogic roof, and then we'll go to our environment here and we'll just do a color backplate. And let's go to our materials here and let's, lens coated I think we can just use for the wings, maybe. Kind of give it a cool look. And then for this other stuff here, let's just go to a plastic. hard plastic, shiny hard plastic, black here, and we can actually probably just apply this to all of our meshes here. And now I'm dragging from here. Let's go ahead and see if we can't turn off. Let's assign a material to this fur really quick. Hard, shiny plastic. Oh, we don't want to do that. So I'm going to take this fur material. We're going to go into Material Graph, and we're going to change some settings here. For the texture map here, we're going to change the brightness. And you can also mess around with these settings here. Let's go ahead and move this over. What was I doing? Oh yeah, specular and ambient. And roughness you can change. I guess we'll just leave, we can change that a little bit rougher. Diffuse transmission you can kind of play around with. I don't think we'll need to. And specular transmission is probably going to do some crazy stuff. Yeah, you can play around with that a little bit. I don't think it's doing too much for me. Let's keep that at black. Okay, so a little bit better. And now that we have that material, let's go ahead and rename this to fur. So now you have a fur material. I'm just going to drag and drop that on these different areas. There we go. And then on this plastic here, we're going to change that roughness up since he's not that shiny on his skin. And on this one, we'll just call this bug skin. And now bug skin we can drop on his antenna. And I probably should have modeled that antenna a little bit better. I apologize. Here. Oh, you know what? So I forgot to hit D dynamic on this one. This is okay. So what I can do is I can go to my scene view here, and we can select this geo, and we can go to edit geometry, edit normals, calculate vertex normals, apply, and we can just soften those normals instead of going back and subdividing and all that good stuff. So I think that's okay. Oh, this one here also needs fur. And then we'll do another hard shiny for the eyes. And these ones I am going to keep super glossy. These still bugs me a little bit. I mean, you can keep the roughness down, and if you want to, you can go into the material graph and you can say, let's throw in a texture of like, I don't know, cellular maybe, and we'll throw that into the roughness. And then here, we can play with the scale a little bit, just to kind of break up that surface. And also, we can change this black to be more rough or less rough. Let's say scale. I'm not even sure what native scale I'm working at, so that's a little bit rougher. Yeah, don't need it. Anyway. Also, like I said before, you can go through here and you can polypaint that. Let's go ahead and apply bug skin to here and bug skin to here. And man, depending on the angle, those wings look pretty crazy. So maybe next time we'll do a flower and we'll set up a whole scene. Then I'll do a little bit of cleanup on this guy to make him a little bit more presentable. But long story short, I think that'll work. Cool. Okay, so yeah, if I was going too fast, you can check out the video that's going to be on YouTube in just a bit. But thanks for showing up, everybody. Hopefully it was somewhat worthwhile. I'm going to try and do the first and last Tuesday, and so the first and last Tuesday of every month on Pixelogic's channel. Here's my Pavlovich workshop. I'll link you to that. If you go to their channel, you can look up my workshop, and then also on my channel, obviously, you can go to the playlist or the videos, and you'll see the live streams. I need to do a little bit of organization and stuff, but anyway, cool. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna head out and see you all, I guess, next week, because that'll be the first. So next Tuesday and next Thursday, I should be on Pixelogic's on Tuesday.